Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, it's the Journalists Roundtable. We'll look at the week's top stories, including troubling allegations involving congressional candidate and former Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb. Journalists Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. It's Friday, and that means it's time for the Journalists Roundtable. And joining us tonight, Jeremy Duda of Axios Phoenix, Wayne Schutsky from KJZZ Radio, and freelance journalist Mary Jo Pitzel. Good to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining us. Jeremy, we're going to start with you. Explicit photos, texts, nude photos. What is going on here?
Yes. CD5 Republican primary got R-rated, X-rated real quick. So this race is between former Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb and construction business owner Daniel Keenan. And Mark Lamb has been front runner here, looking at front runner vibes for a while, and got some information this week that might take him out of that a little bit. Explicit photos sent to a lot of women. Very explicit photos in some cases, stuff you couldn't show on TV. Threats, alleged threats from at least one woman to keep it quiet. Allegations of group text where they're exchanging a lot of photos. Maybe people are swingers. You don't even know where to begin with this. It's just commendable work by the Republic for doing a ton of investigative work. You put this together, talking to a lot of these women, reviewing a lot of these text messages that some of us probably wouldn't want to have to review. So these are some pretty shocking allegations, and we've heard there have been some allegations against Mark Lamb in the past while he was sheriff, because this is all allegedly while he was Pinal County Sheriff. And there have been whispers for a while, but this is very explicit stuff coming out, just a month and a half before voting begins.
Yeah, indeed. This is Arizona Republic doing a great job on this. And did it change the course of that particular Republican primary, which is the de facto election?
Yeah, so the context there is this is a very Republican district. Whoever wins this primary is going to win the race, most likely. As Jeremy mentioned, Lamb is the favorite. He's got President Trump's endorsement. So whether this is enough to knock that wind out of the sails, we'll see. But he's running as a family first, family values type of candidate. And then when you have these messages come out, a lot of, as Jeremy said, indicated some sort of maybe swinging situation, lots of explicit photos sent to women, all that kind of thing. It does definitely undercut family values in a district that is very religious, very heavily oriented towards families.
Well, and we have all the explicit photos and all the sexting and all this kind of business. But the alleged threats against women for posting and complaining about this or making their allegations public, that's pretty rough stuff.
I think those allegations really targeted one woman in particular who left. She is deceased, but she left behind a very rich trove of digital evidence, if you would, of her encounters with Lamb. And as he neared his campaign for sheriff, he asked her to just take this stuff down, don't post anymore, and when she sort of questioned that and sort of gave him a hard time, he threatened her with prosecuting her under the state's revenge porn law, even suggesting that he had contacts at the Department of Public Safety that, could, spell bad things for her. Didn't stop her.
Yeah, and piggybacking on what Wayne was talking about, what does this do to that race?
It's hard to say for now. We got to see kind of what the fallout is, because as Wayne mentioned, it's very, very conservative, very religious, very LDS, and former Sheriff Lamb is a member of the LDS Church, and we saw reported from the Republic that one woman brought her concerns to the church and felt like things were getting really swept under the rug there. So that is, this is a community that does very much value traditional family values. So we'll have to see. Got to be push and pull between, obviously, Trump endorsed the front runner vibes, but I think there are a lot of voters in that district who probably will take umbrage with some of these allegations, and he hasn't really responded to the individual allegations. There's kind of a blanket statement from an attorney saying these are misleading and defamatory and harmful, but he did not address any of the specifics, which is going to, I think, leave a lot of people wondering, which parts are you referring to? What specifically isn't true? Can you address? Right. I mean, they have text. I mean, the Republicans seen these. They published some ones that you can't actually put online. So, I mean, there are definitely things that I think a lot of voters in that district, a lot of family values voters in that primary are going to want to hear his actual response to some of these things.
Well, and I mean, he's on the campaign trail. So will anybody raise this, or will? I think it's a little too late for Lamb to try to get in front of this, but does he just ignore it?
I was going to ask, what does he do? What does the campaign do?
Well, I mean, he's got an attorney. I'm wondering if there'll be a lawsuit. And to me, I don't know this. I formerly worked at the Republic, but I wonder if the fact that they heard from his attorney more than a month before publication, if there were threats that, there would be litigation if the newspaper published this information. But I don't know. I mean, Lamb's going to be out there with, early voting starts, later, June 24th, I guess. And there's a lot of campaigning yet to do. I would think you've got to address it.
Yeah, Daniel Keenan now becomes a name that is going to probably be propped up pretty high there in that district, is he not?
Yeah, he's, an underdog candidate, a local, grew up there in the district. He's a home builder. And yeah, he's already put out a statement, obviously seizing on this and criticizing Lamb. I've seen other people question why he hasn't dropped out yet. Now, obviously, still the front runner, but as we've mentioned, we've seen LDS voters kind of, in some cases, move away, especially LDS women, move away from candidates that kind of offend their sensibilities. We saw, I'm thinking of like former Mesa Councilwoman Julie Spilsbury, who was politically was attacked because she broke away from the Republican Party, even though she's a Republican, and supported Kamala Harris last time around. So this is definitely something I could see driving a wedge, driving those voters towards maybe Daniel Keenan.
Well, and Daniel Keenan has something going for him right now besides these new allegations. He's got a good amount of money. He put, I think, almost $1.5 million of his own money into that race. I think as of the last report, he had $1.2 million or so still on hand. Who knows if he has more to put in there? That's a lot of money to get your message out. And that is a message that I think he's definitely going to be wanting to get out. So it'll be very interesting to see what he does besides put out a statement. You can put out a statement on Twitter or on your website or whatever. Okay, that's going to get a little traction in the media. But if you have a lot of money to put behind that messaging, he's going to want to make sure every primary voter in that district knows about this.
Maybe he'll buy them all subscriptions to the Arizona Republic so they can read and see it for themselves.
When we had Mr. Keenan in for our candidate in conversation, because Mark Lamb was nowhere to be found for that particular conversation, he had a curious thing. I think when you talked to him as well, he said the same thing. I asked him, why do you think the president endorsed your opponent and not you? And he kind of gave a stock answer and then said, but he might later on. You never know. That sort of thing. Now, he might, I don't know what he knew and when he knew it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, I mean, would the president undo an endorsement for something like this?
I don't even know that he needs a reason. He's undone endorsements for less. Now, given the president's history, who knows whether this is something that will drive that endorsement away.
Right.
But he also likes to back a winner. So I think if he smells blood in the water and senses this as weakness, and he sees the tide shifting, then he might perhaps change.
I thought an interesting subtext to all this is the LDS Church. I mean, one of these women went to church elders with her complaints about this, and she had evidence apparently, and nothing happened. This reminds me of a case that happened years ago down in Cochise County where there was evidence of some very horrible child abuse that was going on by a member of the church, and he confessed to his to a church elder, but because of the confessional law, apparently nothing happened.
Now, I've got to be one person I'm kind of wondering what he's thinking right now is Jay Feely, the former NFL kicker who was running in that district. Looked like a pretty, hotly contested race, and then President Trump endorsed Lamb and said, "Hey, Jay, maybe you should find yourself a new district." And so he did. But now he's got to be looking at CD5 thinking, like, maybe I could have taken him. This is because once you get out of that primary, the general's all that matters. And CD1 maybe gets through that primary, but that is not a good district for a Republican in what's looking like very well could be a Democratic wave year.
Yeah, I also wondered why none of this came up on Kari Lake's radar when Lamb ran against her for the Senate Republican nomination. But maybe she never looked at Lamb. She was already aiming for Gallego when she was in her primary election.
All right, Wayne, we We got a budget deal maybe getting
Mm-hmm.
closer, like what I think the Senate president said it's 97% done between the legislators and the governor. Is that true? What do you know?
I sat down with him the other day, and that's what he told me. You know, they're working through the finer points. Now, he emphasized that, you know, those finer points can take a little while. They're essentially going through line by line. You like this, I like this. Finally, make an agreement, highlight that, and then they've got to actually bring it back to the lawmakers, the rest of them, and get them on board. So it doesn't mean we're close, but he estimated early June. You know, they're scheduled to come back June 1st. So hopefully, maybe we'll get to go home before June 30th.
Is there any indication that there's a resolution on Prop 123?
I didn't mention it.
I mean, it seems like that's a bigger issue than just 3%. That's maybe not resolved. So I'd be very curious to see where they're at on that education funding measure.
Yeah, I'm not expecting to see anything on 123, and I think kind of leadership over there has basically put that to rest for the session. It'll come back next year, but as far as the 97%, you know, Peterson told me the same thing, you know, 2 weeks ago. It makes you wonder. It's like, is that just kind of the stock answer? Just say, hey, we're really close and we're almost there, or have they made any progress? You know, these things happen behind closed doors. It's so hard to get a sense sometimes of, are they getting closer? Are they working out their disagreements? But it seems like they're close, and maybe, you know, once they come back on June 1st, maybe there will be something.
Is there a way to know what that 3% is? What's out there? What's the sticking point?
No, I mean, I think we have some ideas. I mean, as Mary Jo mentioned, education funding is always a big deal. And I think the other area is where are cuts going to happen to balance the budget, what's not going to get funded. And then like I said, they have to get the lawmakers on board, which means when they bring it back to them, there always has to be a little bit of wiggle room so that, hey, we can throw this on there to get these people on board, and we can throw this on there to get these people on board. So there's no way to know the specifics, but there's always going to be changes.
In the House and Senate, are they down there? Are they meeting once a week like they were?
The Senate's coming in on Mondays, but the House took off until, I think, June 1.
Okay, so even if there is something for the rank and file are...
Well, you can always call them, bring them in.
Yeah, you can bring them
which
in.
would be an
72
indication that
hours
things
notice.
are moving, wouldn't it? Not?
Yeah. But it's not the rank. It's just the leadership and their staffs, doing all these negotiations. Right? Most of these folks don't actually need to be down there until there's something to actually vote on. Although now that the veto moratorium's lifted, at least they could vote on things and send them to the governor if they wanted.
Well, and speaking of the governor, any comment from the governor's office on this?
Not much.
No, I think lifting the veto moratorium was the sign that things were moving, negotiations, because she initially said she would lift it when they presented their budget. That deadline came and went, and she didn't lift it. And then she was like, actually, I will lift it when they start engaging in good faith negotiations. And then she lifted it. So the signal I took from that is that negotiations were actually happening. And then about a week later is when I spoke to Peterson. So.
Okay, all right. So a little bit of maybe agreement, something good happening there. Let's talk about the Maricopa County government and the county recorder and the Board of Supervisors. The recorder sends a letter, threatening prosecution? What's going on here?
His attorney did.
Yeah.
And this is regarding the Board of Supervisors voted this week to approve drop-box locations for the July primary election. I think it's 12 locations, around the county. And quickly got a letter saying, wait, you can't do that because drop boxes are the purview of the recorder, not of the Board of Supervisors, which oversees portions of the election process. And the board chairman, Brophy McGee, she's like, well, wait a minute, who's running that office? Is it the attorney or is it Justin Heap, the recorder? And they've categorically rejected his arguments. And then today, I think it was today, Attorney General Mays weighed in on it as well and sided with the board and pointed out in a letter to Mr. Heap in his office that, a drop box is not an early voting site. That's Heap's contention, is that, well, that's part of early voting. That's my turf. Stay out. But Mays is arguing, no, it isn't, because you can't go to a drop box and request a ballot like you can if you're early voting. And I also will note that this policy that they've been following on drop box location approval has been in the elections procedure manual for the last 3 manuals. And the most recent one, Recorder Heap or his staff was involved in the creation of it. And I know it's a big old document, but apparently drop boxes are near and dear to his heart. So why that didn't come up during that process, I don't know.
Just another chapter in this fight over who has the authority to do what with county elections.
Yeah, definitely a much more eyebrow-raising chapter than before. I mean, this is a little bit more than just arguing over who has what authority. The courts are already sorting that out. I mean, this is an explicit threat of like, I'm going to get you guys charged with felonies, a threat to have election workers and volunteers charged with felonies under, I believe, the state's anti-ballot harvesting law. Now, who would actually charge them with such a thing or prosecute such a thing? Obviously, it's not going to be Chris Mays. I have some pretty sincere doubts it's going to be County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. I think you're kind of out of options at that point if you're Justin Heap and his attorney. So I'm not really sure. I don't really know what the end game is here because they don't have their own list of Dropbox locations. This isn't, there have been, I think, the special election for CD7, no one objected to Dropboxes. This has been, as Mary Jo mentioned, this has been the way things have gone for years and years. So is the point that they have their own Dropboxes? Do they want no Dropboxes? Because the folks who are, Heap's biggest supporters, the kind of MAGA election denier crowd, they don't want Dropboxes at all. I mean, we've seen people kind of set up shop to kind of dissuade people out near them, kind of camp out to dissuade people from using them. Lots of Trumpian allegations of this is where all the fraud is coming from.
Yeah, Wayne, I know you've been covering this. You weigh in on here. What do you see happening? And again, as far as an end game is concerned, we got a couple of big elections here coming up.
Well, some of the supervisors kind of said the quiet part out loud, basically saying that this all goes back to 2020, claims of fraud, all the stuff Jeremy just mentioned, and essentially that he's doing this to undermine things like Dropboxes, that they're throwing everything at it and creating all this confusion, and that ultimately it's just undermining our electoral system. At one point in her letter, Attorney General Mays said, well, if you're going to consider Dropboxes an early voting location, that means every mailbox in the state is an early voting location because you can send a ballot back via that way. And that means any mail person could be arrested for ballot harvesting. And my first thought when I read that line is, I know some folks, including some lawmakers, who might actually like that. So, if you start following the through lines here, the effect of this is that it's undermining preparations for an election a month before early voting starts.
But to what end? Why would he want to do that?
Some of his allies dislike Dropboxes.
Well, but I mean, as far as undermining elections, I think you still got to vote and you still got to count.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's suspicions that it's just you want to dissuade people from voting, at least certain groups of people from voting. By making it a little more difficult. If you can't drop your ballot off, maybe you're a busy mom with kids and you just can't get to the polls, so you do your ballot early, you drop it in a Dropbox. I mean, it's hard. I've never seen a profile of who uses, what kind of voter uses a Dropbox or what political persuasion they might have.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of it's just to undermine confidence and dissuade people.
Well, and Supervisor Gallardo, the only Democrat on the board, he said, well, he wants this to fail. This is what Justin Heap wants. He wants the elections to fail. And I don't know, if the other supervisors would have gone that far, but it certainly seems like a lot of the point is, as has been mentioned, just simply to cast a lot of doubt. And we'll see in November if, depending on who wins, we're going to see, I think we all know that we're going to see a lot of allegations, probably with no real basis in fact, if Democrats win some of these key races. So a lot of this could be kind of, as we've seen in some of the past few elections, really setting the stage to say, oh, that's not that was rigged. It was a fraudulent vote.
But you're going to have Republicans win too. Will that be rigged? Would you want to undermine elections in which Republicans?
We've been having this conversation since 2020.
Yes.
Never a problem in the past. Republicans did really well last time, and all of a sudden, a lot of these allegations went away. They didn't challenge any of the Republicans who won in 22 or 20. You see what you want to see, and that seems to be what's happening here.
And more of the turmoil, if you recall, he, a couple months ago said, hey, I've found, at least 137 people who are non-citizens, and they've been at least 60 of them have actually voted, and this is a crime. And I'm going to refer this to the county attorney and to the attorney general. So yesterday, it's all blending together. The attorney general calls him out on it, and one of her division chiefs says, well, wait, send those names over. They should have been here a lot sooner.
Yes.
You can't sit on this if this is a potential crime. So we'll see when those get over and if those alleged non-citizens indeed are not citizens. There's a lot of issues with how you vet people's, what tools you use to vet people's status.
Well, a federal database that has been known to come up with, a lot of false positives on, whether someone's a non-citizen. But what he said he was going to do is he's going to change these folks' voter registration, basically set it to inactive or cancel it or do something. And the AG's office said, no, you can't do that. It's not what the law says. It's not what the process says. That's the process for newly registered people. And these are folks who have been registered for years. Then you have to send it to us. Finally, they started sending letters saying we're running out of patients here. You need to send these immediately. And so finally today, those 137 names were referred to the AG.
The last question on this: how steamed is the board and members of the board with Recorder Heap?
Quite. I think Supervisor Calvin at one point said we're stuck on a hamster wheel of 2020, and it just keeps going and going and going. They're not just steamed at him either. They are steamed at their fellow supervisor, Mark Stewart, who is kind of trying to play referee, kind of sitting in the middle, sometimes siding with Heap, sometimes siding with the supervisors, often kind of offering split the baby type motions that give a little bit of everyone what they want. But here, where you have election workers essentially being threatened with jail time, several of the supervisors got up and basically looked him right in the eye and said, if you're not going to stand with our election workers, I don't know what you're doing here.
Yeah, and was there any response? Was there?
Not much. He just kind of deflected off of that and didn't, he took offense to some of their more specific comments, but, he's positioned himself as the one who's just trying to get a deal done. But I think the supervisors are frustrated that they don't have a more unified block.
All right, Jeremy, we here at Arizona Horizon, we had a candidates in conversation this week for a treasurer, for candidates for treasurer, Republican candidates. It's usually Republicans win the treasurer. So this is not the de facto election like, maybe CD5. But in treasurer, having done debates and pseudo debates over the years, a treasurer's race is usually a sedate and comfortable affair. This was not at all.
Well, the problem you have with races like this, and I pointed out, I don't think Democrats have won that office since the 60s, maybe?
Yes.
Something like that. But the problem is, there isn't a lot of actual authority vested in the treasurer. There aren't a lot of different ways to do the job. So a lot of what these primaries come down to is personal style, experience, background, and in some cases some kind of pointed personal insults here, and that's where it's kind of coming down to with Elijah Norton and Catherine Haley, and Norton basically taking the position of you don't have the experience to actually do this job, and a question about kind of delegation, who actually runs the office, because it's mostly staff who do that. The treasurer has so little actual control over the types of investments that office makes. It comes from a board. They have kind of a menu to choose from, but the board makes those decisions. Catherine Haley said, okay, we're just kind of a steward of the office, make sure that these folks are doing it right. Norton says, no, I'm going to be the one who's actually running this, and they have disputes over whether the money is going to be invested safely, but a lot of personal animus, it seems.
Yeah, Mary Jo, at one point, Mr. Norton called his opponent totally unqualified and not even qualified to be a bookkeeper at a pizza parlor.
I think he said she was a nice woman.
She also said, she's a nice woman, but.
Yeah. Very condescending comment, if you ask me. I don't know how that'll go over with with voters, but I think it shows. He came out, on fire. He was charging. He very much wants this position. You're right. State treasurer doesn't have a whole lot of authority over things, but you can make it into a bully pulpit. Jeff DeWitt did. Dean Martin did. Kimberly Yee, less so, but.
Doug Ducey got to be governor.
And Doug Ducey, the prime example.
Using that bully pulpit.
Yeah.
What did you make of all this? Again, the treasurer's race should be about administrative duties and investing in the state's portfolio, and all of a sudden we got, patting swamp rats, that she was endorsed by swamp rats.
Because she had previously worked for some former speakers of the U.S. House, I believe, more mainstream Republicans who have fallen out of favor. But what I made, it's just, Elijah Norton seems like he really wants to be in elected office. He previously ran for Congress, and so he's throwing punches. It should be a fairly boring office like that. That's how I would describe the treasurer's office when it's functioning right. But he seems like he wants to do some things differently. There were some mentions of maybe what his opponent calls more risky investments, and I don't know what appetite Arizonans have for more risky investments with the state's funds. But I guess when you're running in a kind of down ticket, boring, overlooked race like that, if you want to get headlines, then maybe throw a few punches.
I'm not sure the treasurer can just make risky investments. I think there are guardrails in that office because you're protecting, this big, the state trust fund.
Well, considering it's a Republican primary here, Jeremy, who has the heads up here? Is it this charging Turning Point and Freedom Caucus guy, or the woman that is endorsed by the incumbent treasurer, who seems to be a little more establishment Republican? What do you got?
Well, I'm going to give the edge to the guy who put $2 million, I think $2 million, into the campaign, because most people are simply not going to know who these people are when they get their ballots. And so if you have $2 million to spend to let people know who you are, it's going to go a long way. You might be endorsed, Catherine Haley might be endorsed by Kimberly Yee, and that happened real late in the campaign, by the way. It looked like Norton was going to get a, kind of free ride through the primary, and all of a sudden, like just a couple months ago, Haley came out and said, I'm running and Kimberly Yee endorses me. But are people going to know that, and are they going to care? How many voters in Arizona know who the state treasurer is right now? Probably fewer than anyone running for that office would really like.
I see her on TV every once in a while doing little commercials, and during the Diamondbacks games.
Yeah, another thing to point out too is Elijah Norton was the treasurer of the state party and actually has given hundreds of thousands of dollars to kind of bail it out of a bad financial situation. That might not matter in a general election, but in a primary where those grassroots people who are very involved in the state party are the ones who show up to vote, that could give him a significant advantage.
Do you agree with, last point on this, is there an advantage here, or is this just wait till election night?
Well, I think between name ID, which is what money gets you, and then, sort of bailing out the party means a lot to rank and file. That probably gives him an edge. I don't know if he took some of the sharpness off of that edge with the conversation with his opponent.
All right, panel, good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you for joining us. You have a great weekend. I like to think that at Arizona Horizon we are unique in the way that we present information, public policy, sometimes news, these sorts of things, because we have conversations. And I don't